By the way, Donald Trump is holding a press conference, and we're going to get into that after I blast off, or rather,
pretty accurate.
I'm going to get into it right now.
A country in Russia's position could allow them, just in their position, could allow them to join NATO.
So let's do it!
And long before President Putin,
Did Tamazia send a playlist?
Russia was very strong on the fact that, I believe that's the reason the war started, because Biden went out and said that they could join NATO, and he shouldn't have said that. As soon as he said that, I said, you know what?
Weirdly enough, maybe Trump will save Imran Khan. Who knows?
This is a war that would have never happened if I were president.
You don't think it's President Biden's fault, not President Putin? I mean, he's the one.
I think Biden is incompetent, and I think when he said that they could join NATO, I thought that was a very stupid thing to say. I thought when he said, well, it depends if it's a minor incursion. In other words, it's okay if Russia does a minor incursion. I thought that was a very foolish thing to say. The other thing that got it started was how badly Milley and these.
Why would Trump of all people save Imran Khan? Because he's a base third worldist, dude.
I was going to pull out, but we were pulling out with dignity and strength, and we were going to take our equipment with us and everything else. They are.
Don't joke about that. Pakistani Americans voted for Trump because they believe he will release him. Wait, really?
Looked at that mess, and he said, "Wow, this is a great time. I'm going to go in." But what the Americans said, I'm not blaming Americans, but I will say what they said had a big influence on his deciding to go in. Yeah.
The most Latin American president of our time? Oh, 100p.
An American CEO, or did he do so as a representative of the U.S.?
I just don't think that Donald Trump does things that are like
about me?
Inherently.
Elon, I don't know. They met.
The diametrical.
He wants to do business
Not true at all. Most young Pakistanis in my community didn't vote because of Gaza.
Because of the tariffs. They have the highest tariffs just about in the world, and it's a hard place to do business.
Wait, hold
I would
on.
imagine he met.
Let me blast off real quick.
Because, he's running a company. He's doing this as something that he's felt strongly about for a long time, because he sees what's happening, and he sees how the country is really being hurt badly by all of the fraud, waste, and abuse. Yeah.
So how would you know whether he's meeting with a CEO or meeting with a representative of your government?
Well, he's meeting with me in a little while, so I'm going to ask him that question. All right? I'll ask him that question. Yeah.
On auto tariffs, what should we expect, sir? You mentioned obviously steel and aluminum and pharmaceuticals. What are you thinking about auto tariffs? We haven't talked about that.
I think autos are coming soon. I think they're all coming more or less at the same time. And it's not going to be a big shock to the system. But what it's going to do is it's going to bring pharmaceuticals back to our country. Much more important than the money. It's a lot of money, but it's going to bring pharmaceuticals back to our country. It's going to bring chips back to our
Remember
country.
to end Turkish hate.
It's going to bring.
We will never end Turkish hate. Turkish hate will always be. Turkish hate will always thrive in this country. Okay, here.
During the campaign, they were going to build the largest.
Blasting off, ladies and gentlemen. Let the people know we're live. We're alive. Let them tell them to get in here.
Me make that statement, and they thought I was going to win the election. Actually, it was a few months before the.
Pakistani Americans thinking Donald Trump would free Imran Khan is so perfectly in line with the way that Donald Trump operates, where probably sent out feelers to the Pakistani community somehow and signaled that he would do that. So every old Pakistani American immediately locked onto it. It's no different than him going to Dearborn and being like, I'm going to finish it. I'm going to finish the Gaza stuff. I won't tell you what I will do, but I'll finish it. You know what I mean?
I say it, and I say it.
Like that's classic Trump. Just like, giving federal recognition to a Native American tribe and then permanently locking them as Trump supporters, like that one specific tribe. It's always, he does this stuff all the time.
To me, it's the most beautiful. And I'll tell you what, I think really reciprocal tariffs, those two words, reciprocal makes tariffs really fair.
Yeah, reciprocal
no
tariffs.
Right? It would be all auto imports?
Any exemptions, no, because you don't need to. With reciprocal, you don't need to.
What does that mean?
Fox Radio. Do you have an update on the TikTok negotiations?
Yeah, we have a lot of people.
Timeline's running out, isn't it?
Well, I have 90 days from about 2 weeks ago, right? And I'm sure it can be extended, but let's see. I don't think you'll need to. We have a lot of people interested in TikTok, and I hope to be able to make a deal. I think it would be good. People have learned it's very popular, and we'll have to probably get approval from China to do it. But we have a lot of people that are interested, and a lot of people, I think China will be interested because it's to their benefit too. So I look forward to that. But we have a lot of people that are interested in TikTok, quite a few.
Mr. President,
Super popular.
Workers arrived today, Gavin Klager and others arrived today at the IRS. Do you expect to close the IRS, or what are you expecting?
No, I don't expect it, but
the ERS.
but I
Someday.
think that the Internal Revenue Service will be looked at like everybody else. Just about everybody's going to be looked at. So it's they're doing a hell of a job. It's an amazing job they're doing. And you know that force is building. I call it the force of super geniuses, but it's building. And you know, they go up and they talk to some of the people about certain deals, and the people get all tongue-tied. They can't talk because these people get it. They're very smart people. We need smart people. Yes, Brian.
On tariffs, sir.
Yeah, Brian.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, I know that during the campaign, it was huge in Pennsylvania as far as bringing back manufacturing. Have you talked to any CEOs since the tariffs were announced on steel and aluminum? What's the feedback from those guys?
They are in love with it. As you know, in Pennsylvania, U.S. Steel is through the roof. They're all through the roof. That's why I didn't want U.S. Steel to make a deal with Japan or anybody else. I think it's going to do great. But I think maybe more than anybody else, the steel companies and aluminum companies, they're in love with what's happened. And this will eventually be the car companies and chip companies. We have to have chips made in this country. Right now, everything's made in Taiwan practically, almost all of it, a little
Sell
bit in
Texas
South
to
Korea.
Japan, Pog.
But everything,
Yes.
almost all of it is made in Taiwan. And we want it to be made. We want those companies to come to our country, in all due respect. You know, they took the business away. Taiwan took our chip business away. We had Intel, we had these great companies that did so well, and it was taken from us, and we want that business back. We want it back in the United States. And if they don't bring it back, we're not going to be very happy.
And you
Sir, on
mentioned
tariffs, are you-
pharmaceuticals as well in China. That's national security to bring that back.
Yeah, China and other places. We want to get the pharmaceutical and drug business back into the United States, where it should be, right?
Sir, on tariffs, are you concerned that the countries that would be most affected, like India, would just shift their trading to China?
No, I'm not concerned about anything, really. I mean, I'm just doing what's fair. This is a very fair thing. This should have been done a long time ago. I would have done it, but then COVID hit. I was getting ready to do this years ago, and first time we had the most successful economy in history, and then COVID hit, and this was going to be the thing that I was most waiting to do, but it was awfully hard to do this with Italy and France and Spain, and all those people were dying, and then we put tariffs on. See, I have a big heart.
Sir, on Ukraine, when Putin says that he really wants peace, do you believe him?
Yeah, I do. I believe he wants peace. I believe that President Putin, when I spoke to him yesterday, I mean, I know him very well. Yeah, I think he wants peace. I think he would tell me if he didn't. I'd like to see peace.
Do you trust President
I
Putin?
believe that, I believe that he would like to see something happen. I trust him on this subject. I think he'd like to see something happen. I think it could have happened a long time ago. I think Biden, number one, it shouldn't have started, but it did. And now all those cities are knocked down, like demolition sites. All those beautiful golden towers are knocked down. There's nothing going to replace them. But much more importantly, you lost millions of people. A lot of soldiers, but you lost millions of people. When they knocked down those cities, and they're all laying down on the side, they're laying down just in ashes and all crumbled up concrete. They literally look like a world-class demolition site. And many of them, almost all of them, but many of them, and this should have been done by Biden years ago. This should have never been allowed to happen. I know he's a friend of yours.
But couldn't Putin just withdraw his
He's a friend of
troops today?
CNN. That's why nobody watches CNN anymore, because they have no credibility. Okay, who else? Yes, please.
Sir, if you can find a buyer in the United States for TikTok, do you think Xi Jinping will authorize the sale of it, or will he?
I'm going to make it worthwhile for China to do it. I think so. I mean, I got to know TikTok because during the election, I ended up with 36% higher than my opponent with youth. Okay, that never happened before. That's always been a Democrat thing, youth. It became a Trump thing. And I think TikTok, I think Joe Rogan was a part of it. Some of the great people that I did interviews with were a part of it. But I think that TikTok was I think it was a big part. Look, As you know, we were up by 36% with youth. The Republican was never up with youth. And I focused on TikTok, and I found it to be amazing, actually, and very fair. And I think the image of TikTok is different than it was before the election. I think people saw it and they view it as a positive, not a negative. I think it'll be to China's
No one saw it
advantage
as a negative, dog. That
have
was
the
just,
deal be made. Yeah.
that was not a thing.
How much money do you think you'll raise from tariffs on an annual basis?
That's the most interesting question. I think it'll be a staggering amount.
He keeps saying that when he literally lost the youth vote. Yeah, he's just simply, he's wrong, of course. He didn't win the youth vote by 36%. He got 36% of the youth vote, if I'm not mistaken. And that is a significantly larger percentage of the youth vote than he had gotten prior. He still lost the youth vote, but there is a significant number of Gen Z voters that voted for Donald Trump. It's true. It's a dangerous trend line if you are worried about Republicans winning elections, for sure.
Important things. Space Force, the biggest tax cuts in history. You know, this could be one of the most important things that we've ever seen.
I mean, there are very few things that Donald Trump says that are correct. Or I guess sometimes he will say the truth. Oftentimes he'll say the truth when it's like something that people get very mad about. But it's just like American foreign policy where he'll be like, yeah, you know, we're going to do ethnic cleansing and it's going to be awesome. Like that is just American foreign policy. That's been the American foreign policy. He just says the quiet part out loud. But outside of that, he rarely ever says the truth. Oh, he got 46% of the youth vote, which is up 36% up from what he got in 2020. Okay, thank you.
No,
I got the numbers wrong. But I mean, he didn't. He did not get. He did not get the majority of the youth vote.
I think Putin would love to be back.
So why exactly can't he stop the war now? Feels weird to blame Biden for something happening under Trump's watch.
It's very possible that if that was the G8, you wouldn't have had the problem with Ukraine. And if I was president, you definitely wouldn't have had the problem with Ukraine. Russia would have never attacked Ukraine. But you ask a very good question, the G8. It used to be the G8, and then these people...
No, he didn't get...
Out. And I was...
He didn't go from 10% to 46%. Hold on, I'll look it up. I'll look up the numbers in a second. Okay, hold on one. We'll get to that in a moment.
Prime Minister Abe, a great man from Japan, agreed with me 100%. And some of the
today
others
I'm going to be covering Trump's favorabilities anyway.
They had
we'll get to
been
that.
Terminated. I think it would have been very helpful, and it still would be helpful to have Russia be a part of that mix. And I think if they were, I don't think you would have had the problem that you have right now.
Russia
That
kicked them
is
out, of
part
course,
of the
because
G20.
They kicked them out, of course, because they illegally annexed Crimea. I mean, how would you have responded if Russia invaded or
Well, you
took
know,
over?
they took Crimea during Obama. They took, well, now they're looking to take the whole thing. Then they took a big chunk of land and people, as you know, during Bush. And now they're trying to take the whole thing during Biden.
During Bush?
You know, the only one
Is he talking about like Georgia or something?
that took anything with Trump, nothing, not 2 inches of property of land. But Crimea was Obama. And then Bush gave him a lot, if you remember. And then, in fact, it's a sort of a standard little phrase, and Biden's giving them everything because this is a war that shouldn't have been had. And the only one that didn't give him anything is Trump. It's just the way it is.
What's the message from Wall Street about these tariffs? So there's been some nervousness on Wall Street about the impact.
I think
it hasn't been very
Georgia,
much. I think it's gonna
Georgia was
make
in
the
Obama
United
as well.
States
Georgia was
stronger.
during Obama as well, but it was due to George W. Bush. I think he just got that wrong.
Other countries want to have a strong United States. They want to have a strong America. And I think it's going to make us very, very strong, much stronger. And we have a lot of work we're doing on the military. Our military already, I've authorized some contracts to be built that are very substantial. We're building the greatest equipment in the world. We have the greatest military equipment in the world. We're building it. At some point,
Georgia was
when
summer
things
of
settle down, I'm
2008.
gonna
I was
meet
in
with
D.C.
China,
that summer.
And I'm going to meet with Russia in particular, those two. And I'm going to say there's no reason for us to be spending almost $1 trillion on military. There's no
Georgia
reason
was at
for
the
you
end
to
of
be
Bush's
spending
second term.
$400 billion. China's going to be at $400 billion. We're at $1 trillion. We're going to be at close to $1 trillion. And I'm going to say we can settle this on, we can spend this on other things. We don't have to spend this on military because, and I'm going to be meeting with China. You know, we were trying to de-escalate nuclear, and I was in a position where Russia had agreed and China had agreed we were going to start, and then we had a rigged election, so that never took place. But this one was too big to rig. We won by so much that it was
Too big to rig.
You want to do the China meeting in the United States, or would you travel to China for that?
For what?
A China meeting? Would you do that here or
I
there?
tell people all the time, the question is who's going to have the first meeting, where are you going to, I say this to Putin, to President Xi, I say to everybody, never bothered me, I'm willing to say I'll go first. It doesn't matter. It's the end result that counts. So it doesn't make any difference.
When do you want to have a conversation about global defense spending, you, China,
Well, I'd
Russia?
like to have that, as soon as things settle down, I'm going to have that conference, primarily with China and Russia, because those are the two that really are out there. And we're going to have them spend a lot less money, and we're going to spend a lot less money. And I know they're going to do it. They agreed to it. We were talking about denuclearizing, and President Putin and I agreed that we were going to do it in a very big way. There's no reason for us to be building brand new nuclear weapons. We already have so many. You could destroy the world 50 times over, 100 times over. And here we are building new nuclear weapons, and they're building nuclear weapons, and China's building new nuclear weapons, and China's trying to catch up because, they're very substantially behind, but within 5 or 6 years, they'll be even. And we're all spending a lot of money that we could be spending on other things that are actually, hopefully, much more productive. Hopefully, there'll never be a time when we need those weapons. If there's ever a time when we need nuclear weapons, like the kind of weapons that we're building and that Russia has and that China has to a lesser extent, but will have, that's going to be a very sad day. That's going to be probably oblivion.
Do you see that as separate conversations, or do you see one giant summit with you, Xi Jinping, and Vladimir Putin?
Yeah, I could see that. Let things calm down a little bit. When I left, we had no Middle East problem. We had no Russia going into Ukraine. They never would have done it. Putin never would have done it. And I came back, and we got like the whole world is blowing up. So when we straighten it all out, then I want to have one of the first meetings I want to have is with President Xi of China, President Putin of Russia, and I want to say, let's cut our military budget in half. And we can do that.
Remember when you said the Homeland
and I think we'll be able to
our
do it.
Gulf of America thing was being overblown? Yeah, I mean, they're petty as
Contractors
This doesn't
and
change what I'm
Are you willing to
saying.
go after that spending as well? That's been
What are you
We have to
talking
go
about?
Waste.
This is
fraud,
what
and
they're
abuse.
doing
Yeah,
with
and we're doing
that, but
I'm just
it's
wondering about
overblown
your
in terms of
conversations on
like,
defense.
it's not that
Would you want to
significant
do
of a
that as
difference.
Trilateral, or would you use
It's
the
just like a
existing
silly
body that
aesthetic
also
thing that
already
they did.
includes China and Russia, the G20?
I know, it's the people. It's President Putin, President Xi. I don't need bodies. I don't need anything. It's people. It's all about people. It's about relationship and people. And, I've had a good relationship with President Putin. I've had a good relationship with President Xi. It's about people. And I think when things straighten out, which I hope will be in the not too distant future, the meeting I want to have first
They will
is a
not
meeting
cut
with China and a
the
meeting with
military
Russia
spending.
on slowing down, stopping, and reducing nuclear weapons in particular, and also on not having to spend the kind of money we're all spending on weapons, military weapons generally.
I think my question is, would you have those meetings separately with each of those leaders, or would you try to bring them all together?
Both. You start off separately, and that's what was happening. I was dealing with President Putin. We had really an understanding where we were going to denuclearize. What a beautiful term that is, right? Denuclearize. What a great thing if we could do that. And we were going to. He really
A
liked the idea of something like that.
denuclearization agreement
We had
would literally
involved China,
make Donald
and
Trump
China was
the
very open to
greatest
it.
peacekeeper of all
And then,
time.
COVID hit.
It's of course
and then
not
we had a
going to
rigged
happen.
election.
And the idea
there was no rigged
that it would
election.
ever
Now we
happen
have
is
an election that was too big
pure
to lose.
fantasy.
So my whole thing
But
was
he
too
would
big to rig.
absolutely be
They tried,
worthy
but
of
they
every
didn't pull it
Nobel
off.
Peace Prize going forward if that
Would you also
institution
direct
actually
agencies to study the
truly
impact it would
gave
have
peace
on
prizes
businesses in
to
the US?
people who were peacekeepers in
There's
general.
nothing to study.
Okay?
There's nothing to study. It's going to go well. The United States is going to become a very, very strong economic.
Can you
economically
imagine
country.
Donald
Yeah.
Trump facilitates the denuclearization of the entire planet? Ah, yes, the same way you said Russia would not invade Ukraine. Yes, exactly. Yeah, I like that. I like that you guys can only harp on one note over and over again. That's what I mean. Yes. I wonder why you can't point to any other things aside from that, because it's always wrong, regardless of how much you cry about it at the time. I hope
The
I'm
minute I
wrong.
mentioned
I just
that-
don't think that, Donald Trump will ever denuclearize the United States of America.
Biden in particular, I guess he said that, they have us over a barrel. They don't have us over a barrel. We have them over a barrel.
world without nukes
If
would be
BRICS
much
wants
more
to play
dangerous?
games, those
What?
countries won't trade with us. We won't trade with
What are you saying? A world without all nukes? What do you mean? What is happening? No, objectively, not having world-ending weapons would be a good thing. What?
Mitch McConnell has now voted against several of your nominees. He voted against RFK Jr. as the next health secretary, citing conspiracy theories.
He's kind of writing
What's your
away.
reaction to that?
Stop hitting the mutually assured destruction. We're talking about the evisceration of all nukes. It is pure fantasy regardless, but you're out of your mind. No, stop talking about mutually assured destruction being the only way to keep peace in the world. And that is what is like kept the world safe or whatever. Look at Ukraine. Look at Ukraine. Please understand. Russia has nukes. America has nukes. There's a reason why Russia and America never actually engage in straight battle. Okay, what's the difference for the people of Ukraine? You make it seem as though countries do not engage in war with one another because they're nuclear powers. That still doesn't change the dynamic of war. I mean, I guess it changes the dynamic of war a little bit in terms of like countries getting into battles with one another. But the notion that without nukes, Russia and the USA would have gone to war, USA would have suffered 1 million casualties in Japan. Oh my God. Oh my God. It is no, I disagree with you. I disagree with you across the board, especially as it stands currently. If you are a developing nation, you do have to have a nuke in order to avoid American intervention. But the alternative vision for a better world would be that no one has nukes.
lost his power, and it's affected his vote. And, it's one of those things. But in the meantime, Bobby did great, got more votes than anybody thought. And I think he's going to do phenomenally, just phenomenally in that position. And everybody else likewise did well. Not only well, they got more votes than anybody thought. Tulsi, look at how she
He
did. She
doubted
did
Mitch
great.
McConnell ever had polio.
Marco
That's
got
amazing.
99 votes. How about that?
He's
Marco
faking it.
Marco got 99 votes. And Marco, by the way, I have to tell you, Marco Rubio's done a fantastic job. He's been a great Secretary of State. They're all doing great. But we're going to have a swearing in today, and maybe we're going to have a second one, because I hear we have a couple of
if we're discussing complete denuclearization, the idea that countries would be better off with nuclear proliferation is an inherently cynical ploy. If the conversation is about what's currently happening, then that's a totally separate conversation to have. But if there was a serious initiative towards denuclearization, and your argument is like, oh no, mutually assured destruction has kept the world safe. The idea that the world has been safe during the Cold War, or the idea that the world is currently safe, is ridiculous. It's only safe if you are in America. It's only safe if you are in the heart of empire, if you're in the imperial core. It's not safe at all for other countries. That's ridiculous. It's the notion that like, oh, we don't have world wars anymore. It's like, yeah, we don't, but there is never a moment where America is not engaged in some kind of war. It's just you're sheltered from the immediate impact of such things.
Thank you. Let's go.
Let's go, guys.
Yeah, you can say, oh, dude, there's like, especially because nuclear proliferation being the one thing that stops global powers, like superpowers, from fighting one another is ridiculous, because you have this cynical approach then where you automatically assume war is a constant. It is an inevitability. Nuclear deproliferation would be, or denuclearization would be, one very unimaginably significant point towards global peace. He's not equipped mentally, Trump says of Mitch McConnell, saying he never really had it. I don't know anything about he had polio, Trump says. Are you doubting that he had polio? I have no idea if he had polio. Delusional, out of touch LA millionaire take. That's amazing. Yes, I am a delusional, out of touch LA millionaire. And that's why I think denuclearization is never going to happen. But in theory, it would be better for the world. 07? Oh, you're going to be banned for this brave take? No, you're not. I'm not going to ban you, little man. Don't worry. War is a constant. We are violent by nature. Come on. You don't understand. Okay? You don't understand. We always have to constantly engage in war with one another. Mankind has never actually engaged in the collaborative effort. Yeah, what's human nature? Do you think skyscrapers are human nature? Do you think space travel is inherent to human nature? None of these things are human nature. Okay? It's ridiculous. Get out of here. I think explaining nukes aren't a deterrent is a hard thing to describe to people that believe it because it's tied directly to the belief that many people have had that the world runs on being selfish and rugged individualism. I know. Yeah. It is a unfortunately incredibly cynical way to approach the world, especially when we're having a conversation about an alternative that will never exist regardless, but we're having a conversation about an alternative vision for the future. We are just as collectivist minded as we are violent conquerors. Exactly. It's about what you choose to highlight.